Hi, my name is Blake Hagins, and today I will be comparing and contrasting Clair de Lune by Claude Debussy and The Girl from Ipanema by Stan Getz, João Gilberto, and Astrid Gilberto. I will now play a short clip of Clair de Lune by Claude Debussy, which I will analyze later. Clair de Lune is intended for one piano soloist, and it is from the Impressionist era. Debussy likely had two purposes for writing this piece. It's likely that his inspiration for the piece is the poem Clair de Lune by Paul Verlaine, and his purpose may have just been to imprint the feelings that he felt reading that poem into a piece of music, and to have a good third movement for his piano suite Bergamasque. The style of this movement is sentimental or bittersweet, and this is supported by its former name, Promenade Sentimentale. There is the first section of this movement, and later in the piece there seems to be a third section that is mostly a repetition of the first section. The second section contrasts the first heavily, therefore this movement is most likely in ternary form. The melody of this piece spans a wide spectrum. It consists of mainly jumps and leaps traversing multiple octaves. These sequences of jumps sound like Debussy is skipping through the notes in some sort of scale, or even arpeggiated versions of a chord. A common technique that Debussy used is repetition, where one bar will have approximately the same sequence of notes as the next, sometimes with minor variations. Predominantly, the harmony is chordal, where a portion of the melody is played on top of a chord that is used to add color. These chords follow commonly used cadences and progressions, as well as some unique to Debussy at the time. These include 5/1 cadences, 1/4/1 chord progressions, and 1/3-flat-1 chord progressions. Most of the piece contains complex harmony with chords including 7th and sometimes even 9th extensions. Some of the chords should have a dissonant feeling. Despite this, in the context of the piece, they evoke emotions and are not dissonant. The texture flows from soft and soothing, with minimal dissonance, to louder, with many extensions in the harmony and more intense piano playing. All of this is done with just a single piano, and it manages to maintain a fairly low energy level throughout the piece. I will now play a short clip of The Girl from Ipanema by Stan Getz, João Gilberto, and Astrid Gilberto, which I will analyze later.
Olha que coisa mais linda, mais cheia de graça, ela, menina que vem e que passa, num doce balanço, caminho do mar. Moça do corpo dourado do sol de Ipanema, o seu balançado é mais que um poema, é a coisa mais linda que eu já vi passar. Ah, porque estou tão sozinho. Ah, porque tudo é tão triste. Ah, a beleza que existe. A beleza que não é só minha, que também passa sozinha.
There are two lead vocalists, a guitar player, an upright bass player, a tenor saxophone player, a pianist, and a drummer. Basically, the performance is from a band. This song comes from the 60s, a period where jazz was experiencing mainstream popularity. The song was originally composed for a musical comedy, and it was inspired by a teenage girl from Ipanema, a district of Rio de Janeiro. In that region, she was famous for her beauty, and this likely inspired the piece. The song embodies a sense of longing interspersed with pangs of sadness. Yet again, perhaps bittersweet is a good description. It is a bossa nova song that is heavily blues and jazz inspired. This is possibly why it achieved such widespread fame, because it was a perfect balance of familiarity and exoticness for blues and jazz listeners around the world. This song features both Portuguese and English sections, both of which follow an AABA form, which was popular at the time. These sections are put together starting with the Portuguese lyrics, then the English lyrics, then a saxophone solo mirroring the vocal melodies, then a piano section with a melody mirroring the vocal line. It ends with a repetition of the English bridge and the first English verse. The melody in the main verses is comprised of mostly steps and accented, with jumps at the beginning and middle of each line. The bridge is also mostly steps, but the melody here is decidedly more chromatic, and it is different than the melody in the rest of the verses. Repetition is common in the melody throughout the song. Within the verses, the melody from the first line is repeated in the other lines with small changes to keep it interesting. In the bridge, the first 3 lines, despite the lyrics being different, the same melody repeats 3 times while being transposed upward a minor third and then a minor second in each line, respectively. This song is an example of chordal harmony, with the upright bass and guitar playing chords beneath the various melodies. The bass plays the root note of each chord, with the guitar playing the rest. As far as analyzing chord progression and cadences, I can't name most of these chords from a functional harmony viewpoint. They often draw from other modes, and it's possible that some parts or even a majority of the chords may not actually be functional harmony. Every once in a while, there's a common cadence, such as a 5-1 in the bridge, or the 2-5-1 immediately following the bridge. On the whole, the song is very soft, and there are few parts, if any, where the vocalists change dynamically. Even the backing instruments tend to stay fairly quiet in the background. The vocals are very smooth, or legato, and seem to flow between notes in the verses, while being slightly more staccato in the bridge. The most dynamic part of the song is likely the solo from the tenor saxophone. The first thing that people hear in a song is the instrumentation, and from that, these two pieces would seem to differ wildly. One song is a solo piece, and the other is written for a band. This is due to the time period. Few popular songs after the wars were solo piano pieces, and with many from then up until now, bands are commonplace. The Girl from Ipanema is more complex harmonically than Clair de Lune due to its influences from the chords used in blues and jazz from the time period. The general feeling of both pieces is bittersweet, longing for something that one can never have. In The Girl from Ipanema, one longs for an unattainable beauty, and after an inspection of the poem that Clair de Lune is based on, it is clear that one longs for happiness that everyone shows on the outside, but perhaps don't really feel under their masks. Despite differences in the structure of the melodies, they both feature repetition as an underlying device. The harmonies in these pieces are more complex than the chord progressions one might find in most pop songs or even classical pieces. Both songs feature non-aggressive main lines and harmonies, and because of that, they are in the same lower energy level. These two songs are some of my favorites, and overall, they're more similar than a passive listener might realize. Thanks for listening.